flavors before we continue.
So just a little bit of housekeeping. There's washrooms here and then through there and around, I think. I haven't used one yet, so I'm taking their word for it. And what else did I need to say, Deanna? Enjoy the alcohol. If you've had too much, please let us know. We'll get you a cab home so that everyone gets home safe. We're going to ask you to get your checkbooks out there, so we want you to be able to pay for it and not be in jail. So thank you very much. What we're going to do here is the world premiere of our if I can figure this out. World premiere of our promotional video.
She's coming back to sit. No, you can sit here. Move over here.
It's always the way with technology.
Always. Give me 1 second here.
If it worked perfectly, we would wonder what's going on.
Right. Are you tech guys or cannabis growers?
Exactly. What are you selling?
All right, I'm going to do another way here.
It always works beforehand, never works when you want it.
You know Donnie Newsom?
Yes.
He had a heart attack.
I heard that.
He's having a triple bypass this coming Tuesday. Yeah.
Was he at home or work?
No, he's not working anymore. I don't
No,
think.
but did it happen at work?
No, I think it I'm not sure about that. I just got an email from him that said that he's in Rocky View and he's going to be operated on, I guess, over in the other the hospital on Tuesday. There's more good shows been screwed up by.
I know, it's just.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. We've got the video up here. Sorry about the delay.
And now we've turned off this around. Thanks for sticking with me.
Rosebud Cannabis Farms is an aspiring craft producer in the Kootenay region of British Columbia, the heart of Canadian cannabis culture. For over 40 years, the mild climate, mineral-rich soil, abundant sunshine and water have been the perfect place to grow high-quality cannabis.
By utilizing natural systems such as the sun, biological pest control, focusing on microbial activity in our soils, as well as companion planting, coupled with renewable energy, Rosebud Cannabis Farms intends to be one of the lowest impact sites in Canada.
Our founder is a second-generation expert grower with 25 years of experience.
The Canadian cannabis industry has evolved either from the black market or from the pharmaceutical industry, grown in basements or warehouses. At RCF, we want to grow cannabis the way it should be grown, in soil, in sunlight, and in a natural environment.
The team has over 75 years of combined experience in construction, environmental sustainability, finance, and business management. Rosebud Cannabis Farms founder has collected and bred hundreds of strains of cannabis over decades, including sought-after international, old world landrace, and hash strains.
Most licensed producers today manufacture cannabis, and that typically typically involves high input costs for energy, fertilizers, and others, Rosebud will craft its cannabis, leveraging proprietary genetics plus greenhouses and outdoor facilities that are designed to make production costs amongst the lowest in the industry.
Thousands of seeds and plants available for sale immediately upon approval. Cannabis is an unsustainable business. Requirements for energy, water, chemicals, and pesticides leave a lasting environmental footprint. Rosebud Cannabis Farms focuses on sustainability, providing environmental benefits and a reduction in production costs by more than 75% when compared to typical cannabis production. Phase 1 of RCF's development is a nursery, which will be the foundation of all future growth. Phase 2 will see the company expand into a low-cost, high-margin outdoor and greenhouse production starting as early as the 2020 growing season. Phase 3 will see the launch of its value-added product lines.
We're raising $4 million to finance the construction and operation of Rosebud Cannabis Nursery, our keystone development.
We believe that crowdfunding offers us an amazing opportunity to reach investors that share the same values and passion that we have for cannabis. We invite you to join us as we lead the charge for craft cannabis production in this new legal market and capitalize on a sustainable and profitable business opportunity. Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot, everybody. I appreciate that. Just so you know, those actually were us, not paid actors. That was very professional. So we're going to get into our slideshow here. So we like to think by now we started to feed you the appetizer. You're starting to see that we're not just another cannabis company. That what we're presenting is something different.
You hear
And
that?
we really feel like we're at the tip of the spear of the future of cannabis production.
All right, when I met Jay, I came on board to kind of help with regulatory and get this over. So this is the legal stuff we're going to get through. So these are forward-looking statements here. We're really excited about this opportunity. However, none of us can see the future, and we think we've done our homework in moving this thing forward. But there's always a risk involved in these forward-looking statements, so and uncertainties. So we just want to be clear about that up front. So we talked to a few people around the room as we were getting ready here around craft production, and that's really what we're embracing. A lot of you are wondering, is it too late to go and get into cannabis? We had this explosion a couple years ago of cannabis companies, and they all went like this, and now there's talk of, the stock prices are coming down, there's going to be consolidation in the marketplace, maybe it's not the right time. We see that as completely true for those types of large-scale producers, absolutely. But what the new regulations have opened up for us is this opportunity with craft. Small producer, growing sustainable, high-quality, hand-trimmed, cared-for, sought-after strains with unique terpene profiles. You can ask Cheney what a terpene is. I can't help you. But providing and serving an underserved market and a highly profitable market segment. So really, it's basically analogous to craft beer and craft brewing. We've seen an explosion in distilleries, winemaking. We're going to do the same with cannabis, and turn it into leverage off the craft market as well.
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand that we weren't interested in the high energy consumption production. What we're interested in is outdoor. And so we're nipping at the heels of these outdoor production licenses that are becoming this next spring. So rather than late, we're in fact right on time for the niche that we're looking to move into. So we talk about some of the issues with the cannabis industry right now. Obviously, as many of you know, there's a lack of quality and experience. And this is the major issues. There's some supporting statements here that back that up. We feel that we can present solutions to these problems, and that's really what we're focused on tonight. fact, it's interesting. This is a photo of my father. A few years ago, that wouldn't have been a good thing to show. There are some people holding up some of his cannabis.
To be clear, the Asian cop is not his dad.
No,
but you know.
Yeah.
in case you're wondering. Considering cannabis has gone from the shadows to the spotlight, it actually makes sense to show the history. We were in a similar situation with alcohol at one time. We moved out of prohibition, and we're facing a very similar situation now. It's the people that have been involved in that industry in the past that have the upper leg moving forward into the new system. So, over 25 years experience myself growing, as I mentioned, second generation grower. We found ourselves in the Kootenays, which is world renowned as the epicenter or the heart of Canadian cannabis. We can travel internationally and everybody's heard BC Bud. And there's a reason the Kootenays is world renowned for high quality cannabis. We've been gathering genetics from internationally, from well-respected breeders. This could be deceiving, it could be a numbers game, but the reality of it is, with our experience, we understand what quality genetics are. Many of these are intended to sell to the public, and many of them are actually tools in a toolbox of a breeding program. So we've actually intended to gather genetics from all over the gene pool, and that way we have the ability to make anything we want within reason and in the future. So we have tens of thousands of seeds that will be legally moving into our production facility through a one-time declaration, and also hundreds of legal MMAR plants, which we consider mother plants of different genetics. So environmental footprint. This is another big concern with cannabis production. It's approximately 17 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions for cannabis production in the US, and in fact that's 1% of all the US emissions is directly related to cannabis production. Just to put that into perspective, 1 kilogram of cannabis production in these high energy facilities is equivalent to 7 to 10 barrels of oil production here in Alberta. There's a few quick articles here that talk a little bit more about that. Right, so our solution, how do we address these problems? Well, we're embracing history that we've briefly touched on, but also we're talking about regenerative growing techniques, utilizing renewable energy, utilizing the sun, high energy consumption facilities, big expenses. By taking advantage of these natural systems, we're able to produce cannabis at a fraction of the price and potentially better quality along the way. Of course, genetics is a big part of that, and that's another reason that we feel we're poised well. Soil growing. So we actually produce our own soil on site. Our system is based on nutrients in the soil and using microbes to nutrient cycle to make those nutrients available. As opposed to your traditional cannabis production, which is synthetic nutrients and a lot of outside additives, which are costly and not necessarily environmentally sensitive. Permaculture, also known as regenerative agriculture, this is something that I've dove into hard over the last 10 years. And really it's focused on a very similar idea, which is working with natural systems, working with nature for less inputs. Renewable energy, we're using geothermal heating and cooling. We're using a reputable greenhouse company, Ceres. They're out of the States, Colorado. Their tagline is the most energy efficient greenhouse on the market. There's a reason that we're teamed up with them. Water conservation, this is another example. In fact, I can give a quick example here of regenerative practices. We're actually plan to use our outdoor terraces to capture water and store it into the hillside, into the subsoil layers. The idea here is that we can show that we're actually capturing more water than we're using. Over time, 2-3 years, we charge the subsoil and eventually actually get new springs popping up. We are ahead of a water system and will actually be contributing to the stability of that water system. So this is an example of moving beyond sustainability. Sustainability is great, it's going to keep us where we are, but if we have any hope of helping this planet in the long term, it's going to come down to regenerative practices.
All right, so a quick overview of Rosebud. So our namesake is Rosebud Lake. So we're right on the shores of Rosebud Lake. It is a beautiful location. I've been there a few times now, and it's absolutely beautiful. And it is part of our marketing, and it's part of who we are and our philosophy as well. The lake is a and the branding around that is a huge part of what we're going to be going forward. As we mentioned, craft style, using sustainable growing, renewable energy on site, a large seed bank. So our first phase with the new regulations, there's a number of different options now for growers that didn't exist previously under the old system for licensed producers. So we are well into our application phase. Actually, we talked to Health Canada today. We are expecting our high-level review to be completed by the end of the week, and we'll be getting a letter basically saying build it, and we'll come back and make sure you built it right, and then we'll give you, and assuming that's the case, then we'll give you your licensing. So we have a 6,800 square foot nursery. It's the keystone of our whole project. We'll incorporate our genetics there. We're going to expand as quickly as we can into outdoor cultivation. We see a huge opportunity in outdoor. One of the few places in the country where you can actually grow cannabis outdoors successfully. And we're set up to do so. Potentially expanding into greenhouse. And then we have a whole line of product lines that Che and Lindsay have developed over the last few years with their medical license. And the one that really excites us is the sort of topical natural health salves that we will be looking to market in the future. So this is, as you saw, those were all pictures of Rosebud Lake in the video. So there wasn't any stock photography in there. This is Rosebud Lake. You can see up in the, basically we'll be up here in that corner of the lake. Che's family owns it as Mom Penny's here. She bought the 130 acres of land that we're on. We're going to split this off. We have 15 acres in the top that we're going to be developing for our cannabis. The eventual, our building plus another 80,000 square feet of outdoor for our first phases, with some room for expansion as well. Plenty of water on site, ideal weather as we mentioned. Properly zoned. It's been zoned agricultural. Actually, Che got into this was unzoned at one point, and he sniffed that they were going to change the zoning, so he went in and snuck in and got agricultural zoning. So we're good to go with our nursery. And then we mentioned off-grid. Some people look at off-grid, oh, it's a challenge. How am I going to get power? We're looking at it as an opportunity. We see this as an opportunity to build our brand, to operate within our consistent with our philosophy on how we're moving forward and with our marketing and branding and everything that goes with that. So, quick look at the site. Here's our initial plans. We'll plan on going into detailed engineering as we move forward. But this is basically the type of greenhouse we'll be looking at. It's not exactly the same. With our nursery, we'll just have the acrylic panels above our grow rooms on the roof. The sides will be hard side and won't be clear. And this is the property. Here's the building, septic field. We have water on site. Our growth will be over here in the terraced outdoor eventually once we get to that point. And we'll be at our full production. We're estimating 225,000 clones a year and 475,000 seeds a year.
So here's a look at our development timeline. As Jeremy mentioned, the nursery is the foundation or the heart of this project, and everything else will be built off of. And in fact, it is the nursery, to be clear, that we are presenting today. The future expansion, we'll get to that when we cross that bridge, but we wanted to mention it because it is part of our big plan. Then phase 3, of course, is our, as Jeremy mentioned, our value-added products, salves, tinctures. We have an extensive line of value-added products, in fact, up to about 30 products at this point, in anticipation of the regulatory changes.
Perfect for people our age, as I'm looking around the room. Bad knees and sore backs. And
I love it myself.
yeah. Well, there you go. You don't have to be old to be sore.
Okay, so the question is, who are we going to sell to? And this is our target markets. There's at least 153 facilities, licensed producer, or now called standard cultivators, licensed right now, and in fact this number is increasing steadily all the time. At one time, there was only 250 different genetics or cultivars available to all LPs, and it created a real issue, especially when we're considering black market appeal for against licensed producers. When you don't have the right genetics, it makes things quite difficult. So we're coming in with, as we mentioned, 450 unique cultivars that are not available at this time on the market. So this is a great opportunity. We've got a lot of interest. In fact, we're in ongoing talks with 6 other standard producers about our genetics at this time. So we feel this is going to give us opportunity to get to cash quickly once we're in our facility. 400 plus stores will be coming live here sooner or later, we hope. Let's put a little bit of trust in our government. But at some point we will see that happen, and that's another big potential for us to get our genetics out there. Microgrowers, now this is actually a big one. We have a small footprint when it comes to micro production at 2,000 square feet. When you consider we need room for mother plants, cloning, and vegetative, it takes a lot of that flower production away, and in turn a lot of the potential return on investment. Consuming some of that floor space takes away from the flower production. So when we crunch the numbers, it's actually advantageous for micro producers to buy their starting material from a nursery. This way they can just go straight flower and make the most of their limited space. Personal growers, this number we're not quite clear on. It's a little bit difficult. But as of 2013, when I had my MMAR license approved, I had heard there was about 40,000 licensed growers out there. We're assuming this number has increased an awful lot with the ACMPR personal production licenses, but we aren't quite clear, in fact, what that number is. At the end of the day, it's another great opportunity for us to sell our genetics to personal production, personal growers.
So as part of our application, we've also applied for a medical sales license for seeds and clones. So we will be selling, the good thing about this market is the margins on it are the best because you sell retail basically to those small producers who are producing for themselves.
So why us? Why RCF for Rosebud Cannabis Farms? Quality genetics, I think that we've already covered that. Deep experience, mentioned second generation grower, over 25 years experience, 7 years under the MMAR system. Sustainability, this is really what we're all about, and this is where we're able to lead the market and demonstrate a better alternative to our traditional production methods. Again, we're applying technology, renewable energy, and sun growing techniques to reduce our carbon footprint. Really, it's our intention at some point along this theme of regenerative practices to actually be carbon negative. And how could we do that? Well, one great example of that is soil production on site. An incredible amount of carbon is captured in composting and soil production. Coupled with a bunch of other ideas, like I say, really we want to demonstrate that it is possible to be carbon negative in cannabis production. Craft production. So we've capped the size of our facility for a few reasons, but one and most importantly is to keep within the craft quality. And once we expand beyond a certain size, it becomes almost impossible, in our opinion, to keep that high quality product. And for this reason, we've capped it at the size that we have. Low cost structure. If we look at traditional warehouses, our facility is actually quite a bit cheaper to put together. But more importantly, it's a lot cheaper to run, especially when we look at the long term. We are predicting prices to drop at some point. We can see what's happened south of the border. And we have a strong understanding that will probably happen here at some point. And that's when it's especially important to be able to produce your product at a cheaper cost than your competition. Ideal location, we've talked about this a little bit. Situated in the Kootenay region, heart of Canadian cannabis culture, and we have a great location on a south-facing slope next to beautiful Rosebud Lake.
All right, I won't belabor this slide too much, but it is important to note that we've gathered a really good team around us. That obviously, 2 minutes talking to Che, when I met him, I knew right away that he probably wasn't a person that I had met at that point anyway, and since that knows more about growing cannabis and about production than he does. So
we locked eyes and it was love at first sight.
We were holding hands and we were leaving. So romantic. I'm kind of the rest. I do all the other stuff, guy. I've been in kind of corporate downtown Calgary and been in my own contracting consulting for the last 25 years or so. And my specialty has been regulatory compliance. So when I came on, it was with the eye on the prize of getting our approvals. So also Glenn, who isn't here tonight, our CFO, he has been instrumental in kind of helping us get to this point and pulling our plan together. And he's agreed to be our CFO. He's you might have heard him on on QR77. He's today's great idea guy, so he's also famous, or more famous than we are anyway. And his 30 years of experience helping companies get profitability. And our legal advisors, we've mentioned some of them. I'd like to mention Mike, who was also really helpful in helping us value and set up our company in a way that made the most sense. Victoria's been instrumental in helping us kick this campaign off and helping us as well as support on the social media side. Jillian and her team and our branding and making us look as professional as we can, even though some days I fake it till you make it is what I say. We're faking it well. So also we've got local legal out of Nelson, and tying into the community there. We'll be part of that community, and we'll build that network as well with Leon. We work with John Simon, who's out of Edmonton, and he's been helping us with regulatory and Q&A support. And then Craig Dunn out of Well Done Consulting has helped us with their plans for renewable energy. All right, kind of the fun stuff on the financials. As we said, put a lot of time and effort into trying to figure out what the best best way forward is, and done extensive work in modeling and costing as we move forward. Kind of some of the assumptions we're making here. $3.5 million to build our nursery. That includes all the site work, geothermal system. On top of that, there's about $1 million worth of in renewable energy costs. We need what, 35 kilowatts?
Yeah, 35 running constantly with a backup battery bank to take up the meters.
So we're looking to, assumptions now where we can finance half of that, and the way it looks is we might actually be able to finance more, so that'll help us out from when it comes to capital. As I mentioned, our build out is 225,000 clones, 475,000 seeds. We're assuming an average price. We think we're pretty conservative. Our average price for clones at $5, seeds at $5.80. If you go onto the internet on some of the, just Google cannabis seed purchase, and you'll find and pretty much all those sites are gray market and aren't licensed, but they're anywhere from $7 wholesale to $20 a seed for premium stuff and for feminized. So we think our assumptions are pretty good. We're assuming first revenue kind of at month 8. That's really dependent upon final regulatory and then financing, of course, because you can't. The quirk with cannabis in this new world of cannabis, you can't grow anything until you've built it, and so you got to lay your money on the table, get everything built up before they'll give you an application before you can make revenue. So, and we're expecting profitability by year 2. So here with the nursery, we're looking by year 2 to be around $4 million in revenue for the nursery by itself. And the EBITDA, for those like you like me who get confused by financial stuff, EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and I never get the A. So Mike's going to tell me what the A is.
Amortization.
Amortization is the A. So basically, not a standard term, but it's used basically just to look at profitability. And we're at about 58% EBITDA with our expectations as we move forward. All right, here's just a look at some of the costs. Again, compared to the EBITDA, our cost of goods sold, basically anything that we need to actually grow the plant. So water, power, nutrients, packaging, labor, excise taxes, which are a big part of the new market. We're looking at about $3 a clone for costs, and expectation about 42 cents a seed. Seeds are particularly profitable. Limiting factor on seeds is we only have 500 square feet of flower room that we're allowed. So we would probably put all our time and effort into seeds if we could expand past that. But operating expenses, basically that's management salaries, security, high security requirements, with cannabis facilities. Everyone in the room who knows about cannabis, there's a lot of money that goes into security and tracking as well. Seed to sale tracking, you have to be able to tell the regulator at any point in time where your product is and who has it, and it can be very onerous as well. So there's lots of cost in there. What our numbers kind of basically look like is, even if we're wrong in our assumptions and prices go down or we can't get the big contracts that we hope to get, at 30% production, we're still breaking even with this venture. So we think that there's a lot of room to move in there, and a lot of downside protection on that. This is kind of just a breakdown. I won't go into this, but this is kind of where sales per segment are going. You kind of mentioned it in the last slide, so I'll skip past this one. All right, so we're going to be going live any minute now through the Front Funder platform. Victoria's going to come up in a few minutes and explain Front Funder to us. So this is the platform we've used to help us with our private exempt market raise. So we're looking at crowdfunding, friends and family exemption, and accredited investor exemption as we move forward. And we're looking for companies or people like-minded that want to grow with us. And so what we've done is we've set up the nursery as our operating company, and we're offering 30% of that for evaluation for $4 million to raise to get this thing built. Our initial raise, we're going to eat the elephant one bite at a time. So $4 million is pretty ominous for us, for anybody, I would assume. But so we're looking at it. Our initial raise, when it goes live, it'll be a $250 minimum raise, $50,000 minimum raise, and a $750,000 maximum raise for the offering. And then we'll continue to expand that and continue to look for alternate sources of funding as we move forward. Share price of 7 cents to make it all even and add up to, why don't you just go to 17, Jeremy, because it doesn't add up to 4 million and it's not as clean and tidy. We're looking at to be TFSA RSP eligible, just finalizing that as well at a minimum investment of $5,000 that can go into your deferred savings. You're asking yourselves, where do I make my money and when do I make my, how do I make my money and when do I make my money? And what we've looked at, we have no intentions of selling. So we're not there's a lot of that going on. Let's build it up until somebody bigger takes us out and we make a lot of money doing it. We have no intention of doing that. We're craft for a reason, and we're staying craft. So what we're looking at is people who want to share this with us and share the profits with us. So we'll be dividending out when profits are available. We'll be dividending out to our shareholders. We also know that, as a private company, difficult to get your money out. People want to know that there's a kind of an end goal in sight. When we get to our expectations is once we get to year 5 is to look at doing a leverage management buyout. So for those who want their money out, we basically get a big loan from the bank and pay out based on the value of the company at that time. And so with the annual dividends, we're expecting 11 to 12% a year in the dividends for that 5-year period. And then once we do the leverage buyout, we're looking at a total IRR, internal rate of return of about 15 to 21%, depending on how what assumptions you're making. So, and this is what the money will be used for too. I'll get into that.
Yeah, and as many of you are aware already, 15 to 21% IRR is very reasonable, very attractive, even in the cannabis space. So this is what we're going to use the money for. A large portion will be going into our site prep and building. As Jeremy mentioned, our power supply, if we were in a position to outright buy it, which we believe we can do an awful lot better than that, it's about $1 million. And engineering, general contracting, 300, equipment, about another 200, contingency. This gets overlooked all too often. And And there's nothing more reassuring than a safety net. Sometimes issues come up, it's just the way things work. So we made sure we've stacked this quite well in our favor, just to feel secure and safe about moving forward with this project. Working capital, about $250,000, $225,000 for that. Broker costs, we are working with some professionals when it comes to fundraising. Victoria will have a chance to come up here later. Of course, there's a cost associated to that. Well worth every penny, in my opinion. Commission fees, that's what we're talking about there. Working capital, this brings us to a total of the $4 million. Here's a little visual of the money you get to use and how we pay for getting this money together with some professionals. Right, so I'm going to invite Victoria up from Fund Funder. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you very much.
The stage is yours.
Yeah. I'm going to stand in the middle because my team who's actually watching this is saying that they couldn't see you were talking.
Oh, am I talking? Well, I'll just,
Oh no.
I'll just stand here for the rest of it.
Yeah, so just making sure you can see. So my name is Victoria Bennett. I work for Crowdfunding, which is Canada's largest investment crowdfunding platform. And what we do is we help raise capital for companies across Canada. The thing that's different is until 3 years ago, only 4% of the population could actually invest in private companies, so accredited investors. And I'm sure some of you are in this room, but basically if you have over $1 million worth of assets, excluding the principal private residence, you earn over $200,000, $300,000 with your spouse, typically that makes you an accredited investor. That's 4% of the population, it's not the other 96%. And so what we do is we work with companies who want to open up the opportunities to all Canadians because we all want to grow. So we're looking at democratizing capital. So we want to make sure that companies have access to capital on one side, and we want to make sure that Canadians have access to companies that are private because that's where the growth is. Now, they're the high-risk ones, typically, because when the companies are private, they're high risk, but that's also where the high return is. It's where the hockey stick growth comes from. So that's what Front Fund is all about. That's what we do. We get a lot of cannabis deals, loads coming through our doors. And we reject most of them, because most of them are bunker grows. And that's the way when it was illegal. It's the product is going to commoditize. And a lot of the companies are not going to be profitable in the future. And one of the things that really appealed to us was actually this whole seed bank. If there's 250 different cultivars out there today, introducing another 450 is a game changer. So what we do is it's a bit of a dating process. You check us out. Your wife's here, I hope she doesn't mind.
That makes Jay a bigamist.
So that's the first part. The second thing that's different is we're an exempt market dealer. So we actually go through a due diligence process. So everything you see on that wall has actually gone through. We've done background checks on the whole team. We have gone through all the financials. We have gone through the valuation. We go through everything in minute detail. That doesn't mean the company is going to be successful, but you have a bit of peace of mind that somebody's actually checked everything. And if you want to check it, when you go onto our platform, you'll find almost all those documents there. So you'll be able to go online, you'll be able to see everything here, but you'll be able to see a lot of the other documents behind in the documents section. So you yourself can do your own due diligence. So as I've probably gathered, it's a platform, it's an online platform. Everything happens online. It takes, we say 12 minutes. I've done it in 3. If anyone can beat me, doing it in 3. That's my fastest investment to date, but typically it's about 12 minutes. And we actually put a new system in yesterday, which actually should shorten that, but I'm going to say 12 minutes because we haven't timed it with enough people to work out the new process. So you go online, read everything, review it, decide if it's right for you. If it is, there's a bright orange button, click the button, walk through. Now, for any of you who've invested in private companies before, you've had that back and forth, all the paperwork signing, passing documents back and forth. That doesn't happen, it all happens online. You even sign online. So everything is done there for you. And there's a little chat box that pops up, Blondine, she speaks French. She pops up, as soon as you go in there, she can answer any questions you have. If you have questions about the company, if you have questions about the process, talk to Blondine, or you might get Mitch, or you might get Philip. There's their dealer representatives that can help you with any of the questions you may have. Go through the process. It's a little bit more difficult than, say, buying a handbag online, because you do have to say sort of we put you through suitability to make sure this is a suitable investment for you. But so you'll be asked about how much you earn and your assets. But that's part of your know your customer. We have to do it by law. Freak some people out. Please don't be freaked out. If you were to do it, as I say, with a real human, they'd be asking you face to face. This time it's actually a little computer that asks it. And then once you've gone through that, you get all your paperwork, you sign it, you're done. And then all we ask is please tell everybody else, and come along and see if there's other deals that might be suitable for you as well. Is there anything else you want me to cover?
Thanks, Victoria.
I'm here. Ask me questions.
So just to follow up on that, so as soon as we go live, which, like I said, should be any time now, we'll have a link that will go right to our campaign page where you can look at all the information that we've provided. And they have put us through the ringer. I must admit, I'm feeling a little sore after the last 3 weeks, but good for cannabis, great. But we'll send that out. So if you haven't got your emails to us or in registration, and you are interested in getting more information, please let us know. And both Che and I are open. If you want to talk about this directly, happy to have the discussion with you. We're happy to show you our financial model and how we came up with what we came up with. That's probably not something we're going to share out there, but if you want to talk to us about it, we'll go through it with you as well and be transparent on exactly how we've come up with this opportunity that we're really, really excited about.
Yeah, and of course this isn't your normal cannabis situation, so we imagine there's going to be a lot of questions. We're going to roll some slides after. In fact, these are slides that I've all taken myself. With the exception of maybe one, they're all within a few miles of our facility and our site location. And there's a bunch of pictures of our personal production over the last 7 years in here as well, and a lot of genetics we've created ourselves. So while that's running, please feel free to ask away, and we'll answer as many questions as we can. I just want to take a minute right now to thank everybody, our team that's got us to this point, especially Jeremy. When Jeremy and I first met, it was a beard and a bald guy holding a file and looking to catch names and shake hands. And Jeremy believed in what I was putting down and could see the potential. And he also saw that his skills complemented mine so well that we were sort of a match made in heaven. And beyond that, I'd like to thank Sam. Sam had enough confidence in Jeremy, having enough confidence in me to give him the go-ahead to jump on board and be a key member of Rosebud Cannabis Farms. So beyond that, I'd like to thank all of you, because without all of you, none of this would be possible. We're doing this for you. We're doing this for us, but for you. We appreciate the connection, the respect, and the understanding that we're not something normal. We are trying to present something different, be sustainable and highly profitable along the way. So please give yourselves a round of applause, and for the team as well.
Points I just think of. We're just waiting for RSPTFSA, so we'll go live, anticipating tomorrow morning. So please make sure you're on that email list so that we can send you the link. And secondly, minimum investment is $1,000. Maximum is currently $750,000. So $1,000 minimum, $750. But if you want to do more,